All right, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to this episode. I'm Mason Tepesky, your host. I did a little study, or not so much a study, just my opinion. I ranked the NCAA Power 5 athletic programs for this calendar year, 2023-2024. Basically, how I did it is I looked at how they did in football, basketball, and thought a little bit about how they did in like baseball, softball, women's volleyball, and just determined based on how they performed in those sports and ranked the colleges I believed that had the best athletic programs this year. So we'll start at the bottom and we'll work our way to the top. I'm not really going to talk much about each school. This is going to be a really quick video. I'll just say like how they did in football and kind of how they did in basketball, but yeah, it'll be real quick. So without further ado, here we go. Number 71, University of Massachusetts Minutemen. They were like 1-11 in football, and I don't even know what they were in basketball. Not a very good season for the Minutemen. So, number 71. Number 70, Stanford Cardinal. They were, I think, 3-9 in football, and they were not very good in basketball. The Cardinal will look to rebound next season in the ACC, so they have their work cut out for them because it was not a good athletic year for them. However, they did have good years in women's basketball and women's volleyball, so I'll give that to them. Number 69, the Arizona State Sun Devils. I think they were like 3-9 in football, and they didn't have a good year in basketball. It's going to be rough for them going to the Big 12, but I feel like they can rebound quickly. Number 68, we got the Vanderbilt Commodores. The reason they're not lower is because they're in a really, really tough conference in the SEC, and there's a lot of powerful programs there, but they were like 2-10, I think, in football. Not very good at basketball either, last in the SEC, or second to last because Missouri was horrible, but they got their work cut out for them moving forward. But yeah, 68 is Vanderbilt. Number 67 is Indiana, 3-9 in football, and they were like 19-15 in basketball, and they declined an NIT invitation. They are looking okay for the future. They hired Curt Cignetti for the football coach, and their basketball program is going to look to rebound. I feel like they will. So next year should be a much better year for the Hoosiers. But number 67 this year. Number 66, Arkansas Razorbacks, 4-8 in football. I think it was 17-16 in basketball. Eric Musselman left for USC. However, they did hire John Calipari, so their basketball program is back. And their football program, while it's going to be a tough schedule and a tough year, I feel like they'll rebound sooner rather than later in the future. So number 66 is Arkansas. Number 65 is Cincinnati, 3-9 in football. They had a good year in basketball, were 2 seed in the NIT, and they performed respectably in that, losing to Indiana State. So not a bad year for basketball, but it was a horrible year for football in Cincinnati. Number 64, the University of Pittsburgh Panthers, 3-9 in football. Barely was the 4th team out of the NIT, and we declined an invitation. However, we did have a good year in women's volleyball, women's soccer, men's soccer. We need to be better in baseball, softball, and football for sure. So things need to get better and get better fast for the Panthers. Big year next year, that's for sure. Number 63, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, 4-8 in football, and they were a 1 seed in the NIT, so not a bad year for them when it comes to basketball, but football was not very good at all. Number 62, the University of Virginia Cavaliers, 3-9 in football, and they were one of the last 4 teams in March Madness where they got blown out by Colorado State, so not a good year for the Cavs. Number 61, Minnesota Golden Gophers, 5-7 in football. They got a bowl bid because there were not enough teams that were bowl eligible, and they missed March Madness, so wasn't a pretty year for them. Just say that. It's only going to get tougher for Minnesota. Number 60, the Central Florida Knights, 6-6, lost a bowl game to Georgia Tech. Missed March Madness entirely. However, I will give them this. They were the only team out of the 4 newcomers to the Big 12, Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, and them, that qualified for a bowl game. So good job to UCF. So yeah, and I'm eager to see Pitt play them in 2026. That'll be cool. Number 59, Miami of Florida, 6-7 in football after losing their bowl game to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. And they had a horrible year in basketball, missing out on March Madness and performing horribly in the ACC. So not a good year for the Canes. They always get hyped up every year, but they never perform. So that's why they're 59th. Number 58 is BYU. They were 5-7 in football, barely missed a bowl game, and they were the 6th seed in March Madness, losing to Duquesne. So, not a bad year for the Cougars in their first year in the Big 12. However, I will give them credit for basketball because that's a tough conference, and they broke through really well, so good job for them there. However, not enough for me to put them ahead of other teams, so they're 58th. Number 57 is South Carolina, 5-7 in football, missed out on a bowl game. And they made March Madness, were a 6th seed, but lost to Oregon, so could be better for South Carolina, that's for sure. Number 56, we got the Florida Gators, 5-7 in football, and they made March Madness and were a 7th seed, but lost to Colorado, they're 56, I'm sorry, but they lost to Colorado. It's going to be a rough year for football this coming year. They have a horrible schedule coming up. It's really tough. Basketball will look to rebound for sure, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to the Gators. Number 55, California Golden Bears. They lost to Texas Tech in the Independence Bowl at 6-7, and their basketball team did not perform very well, so yeah, not the best as they prepare to go to the ACC. Number 54, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They won their bowl game against UCF to be 7-6 in football. However, they did miss out on March Madness this year, but they did have quality wins against North Carolina and Duke in basketball, so I'll give them that. Number 53 is TCU, 5-7, missed out on a bowl game. However, they did make March Madness where they lost to Utah State in Indianapolis, so not the best of years for the Horned Frogs, that's for sure. Number 52, we got the Oregon State Beavers. They were like 9-4 in football. 9-4, 8-5 maybe. They lost to Notre Dame in their bowl game, and their basketball team was not very good this year at all, so they're number 52. Number 51, Nebraska. They were 5-7 in football, and their basketball team lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Texas A&M, so they're 51. However, I will give their women's volleyball team props as they were the national runner-up. Mississippi State is at 50 here, 5-7 in football. Made March Madness, lost the first round to Michigan State. It's always tough playing against his own Marts, so I will give them that. They're number 50. Number 49 is Louisville, 10-4 in football, losing each of their last 3 games, on top of a loss to Pitt. Earlier in the year, they lost to Kentucky, Florida State, and USC to conclude their year, and their basketball team was atrocious, like 8-25. They have a long way back, so it's going to be a rough couple years for the basketball team, but hopefully their football team does well. Louisville, you're number 49. Number 48 are the Utah Utes. They finished, I think it was like 8-5 football, and they were an NIT team in in college basketball, so not a bad year for them, but certainly could be better for sure. They lost their bowl game to Northwestern. Northwestern, who's actually pretty high on this list, so yeah, I'll just say that. But number 48, the Utah Utes. Number 47, this one will surprise you a little bit here. It's the Penn State Nittany Lions. Football, they had a very good year, finishing 10-3. Losing to Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl, and their basketball team was not very good. It was down at the bottom of the Big Ten. They did have some nice wins against like Wisconsin and Illinois at home, but that's about it. So, yeah, number 47. How I looked at these teams are the teams that were ranked at I separated them into categories. The teams that were ranked at the very bottom were the teams that didn't make a bowl game in college football and missed out on March Madness. The next category was teams that didn't make March Madness or made a bowl and didn't make March Madness, but they made a bowl game and lost, or didn't make a bowl game but made March Madness and lost first round. The next category was teams that made both March Madness and a bowl game but lost in both, or teams that made one of them and lost. So like Penn State, they made a bowl and lost, but they didn't make March Madness. The next category was the second highest one. It's teams that the teams that made both and won in at least one of them. Or the second category is you made both and you won in one but lost in the other. And then the next category was teams that made both and won in a March Madness game, at least one, or they won their bowl game. And then the final category is teams that made were national champions or very elite. So that's how I did it. So that's why Penn State's so low. Number 46 is Ohio State. They lost in the Cotton Bowl to Missouri, and they did not make March Madness. So that's why they're 46th. Number 45th is Oklahoma. They lost in their bowl game, the Alamo Bowl to Arizona, and they also missed out on March Madness, being the first team to miss out on March Madness, or the best teams. So that's why they're 45th. Number 44 is Iowa. Iowa was in the Big Ten Championship. They lost to Michigan. They were 10-3, or 10-4. They lost to Tennessee in their bowl game, and they didn't make March Madness, so they're number 44. But they did have Caitlin Clark, which led them to the Women's Basketball National Championship. By the way, too, South Carolina maybe should be a little higher because they won women's basketball national championship, so maybe that's why they should be higher. Number 43 is Florida State. They won the ACC in football. However, they did lose their bowl game, the Orange Bowl, to the Georgia Bulldogs after being snubbed from the college football playoff, and their basketball team was not very good. So maybe 43 is too low for them. However, they could have been better. Number 42 is Boston College. They were 6-6 in football. However, they did win their bowl game against a good quality SMU team. They proved that they could belong and be good in this new ACC and still be competitive. However, they were not very competitive in basketball, and they did not make March Madness, obviously. So I can see why you're mad at me there, but my scale I used showed me that Boston College should be ahead of Florida State because they won their bowl game, and they kind of did have a better year in some regard. So number 42, Boston College. You have to win your bowl game to get high up on this because winning bowl games proves that you're a successful program. Number 41 was Colorado. They did not have a good year in football. However, Deion Sanders brought back life to the program, so they're number 41. But their basketball team won a play-in game, first four game in March Madness, and they beat Florida to advance to the round of 32, where they lost to Marquette, so they're 41st. Number 40 is Washington State. Barely missed out on a bowl game, 5-7. However, they did win a March Madness game against Drake, and they're 40th. And that's why they're ranked 40th. Number 49 is Rutgers, 7-6, winning a bowl game over Miami. However, they did not do good at basketball, missing March Madness, so that's why they're 49th. Number 38 is Syracuse. They won their bowl game, and however, they did, though, finish not very good in basketball, missing March Madness, so that's why they're 30th. Number 37, UCLA. They beat Boise State in their bowl game. However, they stunk in basketball, missing March Madness, so that's their 37. Number 36, Michigan State. They were horrible in football after their coach Mel Tucker got fired, but they were 4-8. Not a very good year for Sparty, but they did make March Madness under Tom Izzo, winning one game over Mississippi State before losing to North Carolina. That's why they are 36. Number 35th, we got Virginia Tech. They won their bowl game over Tulane, so props to them. They did not make March Madness, though, but they were good in the NIT, so number 35. Number 34 is Baylor. Their football team was awful, finishing 3-9 this year. However, they did beat Colgate in March Madness, so yeah, 34. Number 33 is West Virginia. Their football team was surprisingly really good this year, so I'll give them props on that. 9-4. And their basketball team was atrocious, though. Like, they were last in the Big 12 or second to last. But still, though, them winning a bowl game and their football team overperforming proved them well. And I thought it was a really good year for WV Athletics. I really did, unfortunately, to say that. But number 33, they are. Best team in the Western PA, West Virginia, Ohio region. So congrats to them. Number 32 is Maryland. They won their bowl game over Auburn earlier this year. However, they did not make March Madness, so that's why they're 32. Number 31 is USC. They made their bowl game and they beat Louisville without Caleb, so that's why they're 31. But they did not have a good basketball year, so maybe Eric Musselman can turn that around for them. Hopefully he can, because I'm a USC fan, so hopefully that happens. Number 30th is Kansas State. They did beat NC State in their bowl game. However, they did not make March Madness, so they're 30th. Number 29 is Oklahoma State. While their basketball team stunk this year, they did have a good football team. They were really good at football, and they beat Texas A&M in their bowl game, so that's why they're 29th. Number 28, Notre Dame. Their basketball team, again, was not very good this year. However, they did show progress under Micah Shrewsbury, and their football team won their bowl game, so they're number 28. Number 27 is Ole Miss. The basketball team was better, stayed competitive for March Madness. However, they failed to make March Madness, and Chris Beard declined an NIT invitation. But that was okay because their football team was really good. I think they were 10-3, 11-2. They beat Penn State in the Peach Bowl. Number 26 is the University of Houston. Houston was okay last year. They were not very good in football, though, 4-8. However, their basketball team was like the top notch of the Big 12, and they made the Sweet 16, so that's why they were 26. Now it's time for the top 25 of college athletics for 2023-2024. At number 25, we got the University of Illinois. They missed a bowl game at 5-7, barely. However, they did make the Elite Eight, where they lost to UConn, so that's why they're 25th. Number 24, Missouri. They really did well in football, overperforming, going on 11-2. However, they did horrible in basketball, going like 8-26, and not winning an SEC game. They're 24th there for a reason. Number 23, the LSU Tigers. They were winners of the Real Quest Bowl over Wisconsin. However, the basketball team did not follow up with success, and they lost. They did not make the tournament, so they're 23. Number 22, Georgia. They won the Orange Bowl despite losing the SEC championship, and they made the NIT semifinals. So good job for them. They had a good athletic year, and their basketball program is on the up, and their football program is solid. This is going to be a top 5 athletic program in the country. So number 22. Number 21 is the University of Auburn. They lost in their bowl game, and they lost in March Madness. So they made both but lost, but at least they made both. So they're number 21. Same thing goes for number 20, which is Wisconsin. They made both, and they lost both. They lost the Real Quest Bowl, and they lost in March Madness opening round. So, yeah, they're number 20. Number 19 is Kentucky. They lost the Gator Bowl to Clemson, and they lost in March Madness to Oakland in Pittsburgh. So, well, not Oakland, but Oakland, the Colts in Michigan, but they played in Pittsburgh. So, number 19 is Kentucky. At least those 3 programs made both. Credit to them. Number 18, Texas Tech. They were winners of their bowl game over California, but they did lose in the first round of March Madness to NC State. Number 17, Texas A&M. They lost their bowl game to Oklahoma State. However, they did beat Nebraska in the tournament, but they lost to Houston in the next round, so they're number 17. Number 16, Iowa State. The losers of their bowl game to Memphis, the Liberty Bowl. However, they did go to the Sweet 16 in March Madness and won the Big 12 in basketball, so congrats to them. Number 15, North Carolina. They lost the Mayo Bowl to WVU. However, they did turn it around in basketball and made a Sweet 16 run. They made both, and they did okay in both, so good for them. Number 14 is North Carolina State. They lost their bowl game to Kansas State. It was the Pop-Tarts Bowl, I think. But in basketball, they followed that up, men's and women's, and they made Final Four runs. So, good job by them. That's why they're number 14. Number 13 is Purdue. They did not make a bowl game. They were 4-8, I think, this year, maybe 3-9. However, they were the runners-up in men's basketball. That's why they're so high, because I ranked them higher than most due to them being the runner-up. So, good season by Purdue men's basketball, and that's why they're so high. Same thing goes for the number 12 team, and that's the University of Washington Huskies. Their basketball team was not very good this past year. However, they were the national runner-up in football, and they have a very solid foundation of football with new head coach Jedd Fisch coming in as they prepare to leave for the Big Ten. Number 11, this one's really going to catch you off by guard here, but it's Northwestern. They won their bowl game against Utah on December 23rd, and they beat FAU in March Madness before losing to UConn, a game where they outscored UConn in the second half. I think they were the only one this tournament who did that, so credit to Northwestern. They're definitely an athletic program on the uppity up, so they're number 11. Number 10 is Kansas. Kansas won their bowl game against UNLV, and Kansas made it to the round of 32 in March Madness. Wasn't the best of years for them athletically or basketball-wise. However, their football team's definitely on the up, and I expect very big things out of both programs in 2024-2025. They're number 10. Number 9 is Oregon. Oregon made a New Year's Six Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl in football, where they beat Liberty 45-6, and they made March Madness because they won the Pac-12, the final Pac-12 basketball championship, and they did almost win the final Pac-12 football championship, by the way, but they didn't do that. They did in basketball, though, got them to March Madness, and they beat South Carolina before giving Crane a run for the money and losing. Number 8 is Arizona. They won their bowl game, the Alamo Bowl, against Oklahoma. Football team's definitely on the up for sure. And the basketball team made the Sweet 16. Football did get a new head coach. Let me tell you his name here. And they're moving to the Big 12 next year. Oregon's going to the Big 10. Brent Brennan will lead the Wildcats in their first Big 12 season. That will be interesting to watch for sure. But they finished number 8 in their last season in the Pac-12. And it looks like they were the best Pac-12 team, so congrats to them. Number 7 is Clemson. They were in the Elite 8 this year for basketball. And they won the Gator Bowl in football. Wasn't their best football year, but their basketball team's on the upswing for sure. This is a program with a high potential, so congrats to Clemson, number 7. Number 6 is Duke. They beat Troy in their football bowl game, and they made the Elite 8 in basketball. That's a good school, good academics, good athletics. Duke is there. Congrats to them. Number 5, and this is the top 5 where it gets interesting. The University of Tennessee. They are a very strong athletic program. They have good baseball. They have good softball. But they also have good basketball. They made the Elite 8 losing to Purdue, their best team in years. And they won their bowl game, the Citrus Bowl, over Iowa, real big. So good for them, number 5. Number 4 is Texas, women's volleyball national champs. Congrats to them on that. They also made March Madness. They won a game against Colorado State. but they lost against Tennessee. And they were in the college football playoff semifinals where they lost to Washington. Very good year for Texas at Austin, so number 4. Number 3, the University of Connecticut, although their football program stunk. I think it was like 2-10 or 3-9. Their basketball program won the national championship back-to-back years. Just dominated, so they're number 3. Congrats on that. Number 2, the University of Michigan. Their basketball program was atrocious this past year. However, their football program was the very opposite, going 15-0 and winning the national championship despite all the controversies that surrounded them. So good for them at number 2. And number 1 is the University of Alabama. They made the college football playoff and the Final Four in the same year, while still having good baseball, good softball, and other strong sports teams. The University of Alabama right now is the top athletic school in the nation. And it's going to be that way for a while. Congratulations to the University of Alabama on winning that title this year, the best athletic school according to Mason. So, yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope if your school had a good year, congrats to you. If not, better luck next year. Can't wait. I hope to do this again next year. In the meantime, though, have a good one. Take care, stay safe, and as always, peace. See you for the next one.